Well, hey, what's going on? Today we want to look at an important question about books. Not the content of books, but how books are made. And the question is my book glued or is it sewn? And of course this question is relevant to those who collect fine books and especially Bibles. But we're going to look at books today as an example. And if you do not already know this, books that are put together by sewing are far more quality and will last much longer than books that are put together by way of gluing. So for instance, let's look at what happens to a glued book. A glued book will very often fall apart because the method of holding the book together is very much inferior. In fact, you'll have this kind of thing happen in a glued book all the time, and you shouldn't expect it to last more than a few years. A sewn book will last for your lifetime, and so although they're a little bit more expensive, they're always the better investment. So let's look at two books here. I've got Calvin's Commentaries on the top, this brown book, and Charles Hodge's Systematic Theology on the bottom. And we're going to look at three different ways to tell whether your book is sewn or glued. And again, this is particularly relevant to Bibles because you probably want your Bible to last. Okay, so the first way we're going to examine is by simply opening up the book. If I open up a sewn book, what will happen is this. It will stay open. Okay, it's not rocket science, and I've not used this particular commentary very much, but wherever I turn, I should have not too much problem keeping the book staying open. That's a hallmark of a sewn book, so that's good. Conversely, if I look at this glued book by Hodge, and I open this book, anywhere I go, this book is not going to stay open very well, and it's going to be quite difficult to read. I can't get it to stay open on almost any page. It snaps shut like a bear trap, so that's not a good sign. Okay, the second thing we're going to do, if that's not conclusive already, is we're going to have a look at the very base of the book itself, right here. Now, if you see this band right here, it's green and yellow on this one, that does not necessarily mean it's sewn. That's just the tail band or the headband, which is glued on to the book, okay, before it goes into final production. But what you can do is you can look underneath that, right along here. And if you see a thick strip of glue, that's going to be your second sign that you have a glued book, and that is not good. Glue equals boo, sewing equals yay. Okay, so let's have a look at the commentary by Calvin. And here we're going to be a little bit fooled because if I look at this, I do see glue, although this is a sewn book, but that's simply because the glue from the headband has spilled over onto the pages, so that's a false tell. So what I really want to do is I want to look at a spot where there is no glue, and what I should be able to see are round, they look like eyelets or they look like peacock feathers if you look very carefully. And those are the folded signatures of the paper folded together and then stitched down the center. Okay? Now the final and the most important tell for if you have a sewn or glued book is simply to begin turning the pages of the book. And if you turn the pages and if you look directly down the center, eventually, if you have a sewn book, you will be able to see stitches in the middle of the pages. But no matter how many pages I turn on this glued book, I'm not going to see that because there is no stitching holding those pages together. This is perfect bound, which means the paper was chopped and glued along the back, and that's all there is to it. But if I have a sewn book and I open it up and I begin to turn some pages, okay, eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to see the final mark, the sure thing, the absolute security that this is a sewn book because there is the stitching right down the middle. Okay? So if you're considering buying a Bible, don't forget that Bibles come in sewn and glued, and the glued will not last you but a couple years, and the sewn books will last you for a lifetime. Okay? I hope that helps. Thanks for checking in. Talk to you later.